here from Business Language Services. As the name implies, we basically provide you with any kind of language service that you might need. This being all about international business, looking to export, you might be looking at the possibilities of having language barriers. So just quickly, I'm going to speak quite quickly because I'm aware that we're running a bit late already. So just to give you a brief introduction about the company. We were established in 1990 up in Abergavenny, so we've been going for over 20 years. March 2008, we had some new directors, expanded the company, and a couple of years later moved into Cardiff city centre, so that's why we're here today. We do have an in-house team within the company, obviously most of us being linguists, but we also count on a massive network of freelance linguists, so there'll be translators, interpreters, specialists in all sorts of other things. We're a corporate member of the Institute of Translation and Interpreting, which is the UK's leading translating association, and we're a full member of the Association of Translation Companies, which allows us to authorise and certify translations. And most recently this year we've come on board as a strategic member of the South Wales Chamber of Commerce, which is why we're here today. So most importantly really, run you through the services that we can offer. Number one on the list is translation, so primarily written translation. This is such a wide kind of subject really. We offer translation in all languages from and to English, in all sorts of subjects, so we have specialists. As I mentioned, we have a network of linguists that we work with, so we have specialists in different fields. So whether it's pharmaceutical products, perhaps a manual that you need translated, a legal contract of some kind, we can help you with that. Number two on the list would be interpreting. So we offer conference interpreting, but we also offer interpreting for more intimate occasions, so for meetings, if perhaps you've got clients coming from abroad who need help to communicate with you, we can help you here. Potentially we can also go with you abroad if you're visiting people abroad. We can also help you on the phone and things like that. So just to help you kind of communicate face to face. We also offer language training, so again that encompasses any language, obviously based in South Wales, but we do send tutors further afield if necessary. We primarily focus on the European languages just because that's generally the demand that we have, but we also have taught Chinese, Japanese, Russian, things like that. We'll come to your company, we'll tailor it to you. It can be one-to-one classes, small groups, however you like really, and we'll obviously focus on your business as well. So if you have a specific business selling, I don't know, cranes for example, then you know, our tutor will know about that, we'll get the terminology and we'll make sure that that's all focused to your business and what you need. And we also offer English classes, so if potentially you've got new colleagues coming from abroad or something like that, we can offer them assistance with their English. Editing and reviewing, it's possible. I know that lots of companies have bits and bobs of translation they've had from other places, aren't quite sure where it came from, how old it is, how good it is. We're certainly happy to look at that for you, review it, edit it, and that includes English as well. And that does include things, like the chap who was talking before, in terms of, you know, you might have a website that's been created for you very much in UK English, and you're looking to export to the USA. That would include us editing that to make it more appropriate for them. We offer voiceovers as well if you're considering perhaps having a video, some kind of video on your website, or whether you send DVDs to people. We can voice over that so you can have a foreign language audio. We could also organise subtitling and things like that. Typesetting, so if you've got, for example, more complicated manuals that aren't just created in Word, we can work with InDesign, FrameMaker, all the other formats to make sure that it all looks right in the other language. Transcription as well, perhaps meeting minutes, yes, minutes of meetings, and that sort of thing. And I've put "and more" because basically anyone that comes to us and needs some kind of language service, I'm sure we can help, whether it's you know, calling a company abroad just because you need to ask them a quick question in French and you're not sure who can help you do that. So we can help you do that. So finally I've got a why us. I could spend a long time telling you why we're so wonderful, but there's a few, a list there of a few things that I think are important why we might be able to help you. We're local, as I say, we're based in Cardiff, so we're happy to come and talk to you in your office. If you wanted to come and visit us, that's fine. We do have expertise over a wide range of subjects and languages. Confidentiality is very important to us, as is the quality of our work. And punctuality, you know, in our business it's really important that we get things to people on time, so that's what we do. And the lastly, but not leastly, perhaps most importantly, is that as a strategic member of the South Wales Chamber of Commerce, we offer special discounts to fellow members. If you're not members but you're here today, feel free to let me know as well, and I'm sure we can extend that to you for today. So that's it really. These are my contact details. They probably won't be there for very long, but we're on stand 56 just down on the right there, so if you wanted to come and have a chat with me afterwards, I've got plenty of information and advice if you need it, so look forward to seeing you afterwards. Thanks.
Good afternoon, my name is Vicky Martin and I'm from UK Export Finance, which is just out at stand 64 on the left hand side. We were mentioned a couple of times this morning, I was quite pleased to notice, by David Walters in the presentation given by the BBA. We're a government department that was formerly known as ECGD, or the Export Credits Guarantee Department, and we've been around for about 95 years supporting UK exporters, but we've recently made a few changes to the products that we offer to try and make them more relevant to the majority of exporters. So we are here to try and raise awareness of our products and services and provide you with a place to come to if you need support for the financial risks around exporting. So as a bit of background about who we are, we're a separate government department, but we share the Minister, Lord Green, with UKTI. So we work very closely with UKTI and their equivalents in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. We are going through a process at the moment of recruiting export finance advisors who will be export finance specialists based within those regions, so that we can provide a bit more of a full support, because at the moment everyone who works for us is based in London. So this means that we can come out to see you, we can send people who have knowledge of our products and services and can assist you in that respect. We are here to complement but not compete with the private sector. So if you can get trade credit insurance from an insurance company, or you can get a loan that you need from a bank without having to involve us, then from our point of view, then that's the most appropriate way forward. But we're here as a last resort, in effect. So if you can't get the insurance that you need, if you can't get support from your bank, then there might be something that we can do to help you, either working with your bank or providing an insurance policy directly to you. But we're not there to compete, and obviously our friends in the banks and insurance companies are quite keen that we don't tread on their toes in that respect. This is a lovely picture of our offices, and when it's nice and sunny, which it hasn't been particularly recently. We can provide support for exports of goods as well as services, so it can be either. We can cover all sectors now, and we can provide support for exports with up to 80% foreign content. So providing 20% of the content is UK, and that can include profit coming back into the UK, then we can consider providing support. So we support transactions of all sizes. We're pretty well known, I think, for looking after the bigger capital goods exporters of the UK, so the likes of Airbus, Rolls-Royce, British Aerospace, that sort of thing. And often people don't realise that we've actually supported transactions for export contracts as low as £10,000 or £12,000 as well. So we'll look at the whole piece. We launched 4 new products last year. So I'll talk about them all just at a high level, but if you need any more information, then please come and see us or have a look on our website. We have an export credit insurance policy. We support the issue of contract bonds with banks. We have an export working capital scheme and a scheme to help support FX requirements. So firstly, our export insurance policy. It's for single export contracts where you might not be able to get support in the private sector. We can provide up to 95% cover of your contract, and it covers against not being paid by your buyer for insolvency reasons or commercial reasons, but also against political risk. So for example, if there is civil war in the country that you're exporting to, which means that you can no longer fulfill your contract, then the insurance will provide cover for that. We work with a network of insurance brokers that are all listed on our website, but we deal with exporters directly as well, so you can come through either way. The only thing that we are restricted in doing is supporting business that's less than 2 years in Europe and other OECD-rich markets, because that's prohibited by the OECD, because it's thought that private sector insurance companies should be happy to take those sorts of risks. But if it's emerging market business or if it's longer than 2 years, then we would be happy to take a look. There is a premium attached to our insurance policy, which we calculate on a case-by-case basis. We don't intend to charge the earth, we simply charge what we think is a reasonable fee for the risk that we're taking, and our intention is to break even across all our products. Secondly, I'll talk about the bond support scheme. This is a scheme where we will give a guarantee to a bank who's issuing a bond on behalf of a UK exporter. So that can be a performance bond, a bid bond, an advance payment guarantee, all of those contract-related bonds. And it just simply means that a bank might have appetite to support you as an exporter, but might not be able to do the full amount that you're looking for. So by sharing risk 50-50 with UK Export Finance, they're able to double the capacity of the bonding facility that's available to you. So if the bond is related to cash, so if you're getting an advance payment in from your buyer, but in exchange you have to provide an advance payment guarantee, then we can provide a guarantee of up to 80%. And the reason that we do more for bonds that are related to those cash payments coming in are that we want to try and encourage banks to release that cash to you so that you can use it for working capital. Because all too frequently we hear that banks will take that advance payment to secure the bond that they're issuing. So you end up without your advance payment and paying a fee to have the bond issued in the first place. So we hope that by allowing the bank to take only 20% of the risk, they might be a little bit more willing to give that cash back. We obviously do our own assessment of the UK exporter, because it's the risk that you won't pay out in the event that the bond is called and the bank has to pay. So it has to be an acceptable risk for us, but we work quite closely with at least 10 banks, and there are a couple more that we expect to sign up for this scheme shortly. We don't charge any additional fee for taking part. We simply share in the fee that you already pay to your bank. So it should make no difference to the pricing of the bond, whether we're involved or not. We also have an export working capital scheme, which was mentioned by David Walters of HSBC earlier. It works very similarly to the bond support scheme, where we will give a guarantee to the bank for typically 50% of a working capital loan that they're providing for a particular contract. So where we see this adding the most value is if, as an exporter, you win a contract that's slightly bigger than is normal for you, and whilst the bank wants to support you, they might not have the appetite for the full amount. So again, by sharing risk 50-50 with UK Export Finance, they're able to increase the capacity of lending that's available to you. So it has to be linked to a particular contract, and the drawings under that loan have to be to pay your suppliers to be able to deliver that contract. But the process is very similar. We share in the fee that the bank already charges you, and at the moment we're working with 4 participating banks, but we're hoping to increase that further. Finally, we have a foreign exchange support scheme. I think it was mentioned earlier the importance of thinking about exchange rate risk when you're planning your export contracts. And what we can do is provide an extension of either the bond support or the working capital scheme to help cover the amount of capacity that's taken up with your FX contracts that your bank may enter into. We've also looked at providing this as a standalone product, which we are investigating at the moment. This is a list of the main markets that we've supported exports to over the last year or so. There are more markets than this than we're looking at. You'll probably notice, for example, we're on cover for Libya, we're on cover for Iraq. Libya is one where we definitely get a fair few inquiries for our export insurance product, because most private sector insurers aren't that keen on Libya. We also now are able to offer cover for Greece, providing we think the buyer is acceptable. So we've had a number of inquiries about that. This slide just shows a summary of some of the sectors that we have supported. We're probably, as I said, most well known for supporting big capital goods exporters and project finance, but we equally support wallpaper manufacturers, food and drink suppliers, events management companies, engineering firms. So, you know, there isn't any exclusion in terms of what you do. And finally, this is how you can get hold of us. So for the bank guarantee schemes, the working capital scheme and the bond support scheme, then you should go through your bank. And we hope that your bank manager will be aware of it and will know how to access it and will be able to contact us to take it forward. But if not, then please feel free to contact us directly and we'll try and make that happen. For our credit insurance, then you can either come through your broker or you can come to us directly, and we'll be happy to consider your application and provide a premium rate. We have a helpline number, but it comes through to underwriters within the team that I work for. So if you ring us, then you should end up speaking to someone who knows what they're talking about. But if you need any more information, then we're just out there. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon. As you can see from the board there, my name is Mike Snyder and I'm the Head of Trade for the Welsh Government. And I'm here really to talk about the Wales Trade Programme, the International Trade Programme, and how it can help and support your company to trade and go to overseas markets. Just the top one there, just to confirm that international trade is very much an economic priority for the Welsh Government, and I think it's important to state that one first off, because quite a lot of companies feel as though the support to them out there on the trade side has disappeared. That's not the case. I fully understand their reasons for saying that, but there is a full programme in place, and it is an economic priority for the Welsh Government. It's very much supported by the First Minister and our Minister, and in fact the First Minister has already been on 2 trade missions, one to China, one to India. So both the Business Minister and First Minister will be participating actually in the trade mission programme, which I'll highlight to you later on as we go through the presentation. We've also worked very closely with UK TNI on this, and John Welsh from UK TNI was here talking earlier about how they can help. So again, we link in very closely with UK TNI and work with them in market and use their specialisations and their contacts within the embassy. And just a few things there, an international trade team has been set up within the major projects team to give international trade its emphasis. And we've reintroduced this year, 2012-2013, a new multi-sector trade mission programme moving forward. And again, I think a lot of that has been actually based on the comments from companies and the feedback from companies in relation to trade missions and the importance of getting out there and selling both your company, your products, and Wales itself. I'll just put this one in very quickly because I've done a couple of presentations this week, and actually this has come up a number of times, does it include service companies? So just wanted to emphasise that very quickly. Yes, it does, and if you look at our priority sectors on the business side within Welsh Government, in terms of the sectors we've got, financial and professional services, creative industries, tourism sector, a lot of our key sectors in the service side. So I just wanted to emphasise that service providers are very much part of that, and we can help all companies in relation to international trade. I'm not going to give too many stats, but again, in terms of overall stats, Welsh exports last year stood at £13.4 billion, which I think was an increase of 13.8% on 2010. The good stat in that, I think, was £1 billion worth of new business was going beyond the EU into new markets and into the China and India. So certainly there's encouraging signs there. But again, when you look at SMEs in Wales, only 16% of SMEs in Wales export compared to 23% in the rest of the UK. So again, there's a job to do to make sure and encourage companies to get into international markets. And that's really what our goal is there in terms of more exports and getting more exporters to actually do it. We probably very much doing a lot of awareness raising there in terms of our programs. We're working across the board and across the organisations in Wales with the Chamber of Commerce, and we've had meetings with the Chambers of Commerce. I was speaking here today, meetings with the CBI, the exporters clubs, companies, trying to get out and see as many companies as possible, just to raise the whole kind of programme of support that is from ourselves as part of the drive on exports. Again, our whole programme is designed really from helping companies from the initial thought or the initial looking at markets right through to experienced exporters. So in terms of improving knowledge and skills and preparing companies to export and go to new markets, I'll come on to that in a minute, because again we have a programme directed at that. Finding opportunities, we will find opportunities based on your needs and requirements in market and bring those opportunities to you. And then how do you start looking at those opportunities in terms of getting you out to market, whether that be on a trade mission program or actually assisting you to travel yourselves to look at those opportunities moving forward. This is really an overview of the whole programme of assistance that we can offer your company or your clients. And I've just put that up there as an umbrella slide, and I'll run through these in a little bit more detail so you can see exactly what's in each programme. The first one on the left is the International Trade Development Programme. Again, designed really to advise often companies looking to export, considering exporting, but also established exporters looking at new markets. We then move on to the International Trade Opportunities Programme, where those are companies who are experienced or are export ready, where we start looking at specific opportunities and identifying warmed up contacts for you in market, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And then we go through to our overseas trade missions, which I'll put up in detail, and our overseas business development, which is a grant to help companies get to market and look at specific new business. John Welsh from UK TNI was here earlier. And I've put a little line at the bottom. We also work very closely with the UK TNI in terms of signposting companies to the services they offer, which can be similar to ours. But again, if we don't feel we've got that expertise, or it's a specific market that you're looking at, we don't have that expertise, then again we'll signpost you to the right service within UK TNI. And an example I'll give of that is we're working with a company from Cardiff who are in the defence industry, and the market they've identified which would be perfect for their product was India, and they've spent 18 months looking at India, and they need to get into a high government level because it's defence. They couldn't do it successfully. We used our staff in India to try and do the same, but again, because it's such a specialised area, we arranged a meeting in London with UK TNI, who have a defence specialist, and from there in, actually they brought a high-level delegation from India, and the company are now going across. They haven't signed a deal yet, but they've got into the highest level possible of government. So again, it's just an example whereby we can actually signpost companies and bespoke that service based on your actual needs. The support programme, just going through them in a little bit more detail, just to show how they can help your company or your clients' companies. The International Trade Development provides a one-to-one consultancy to companies to help them get ready for export. It tends to be aimed at really companies looking at exporting for the first time or looking at new markets, and it's actually based on your company's specific needs and requirements. It can cover a whole host of topics, which hopefully you can see up there, in terms of working with you to develop your company's strategy to export in terms of getting ready, in terms of export diagnostics. Probably people this morning, in terms of the finance side, we're talking about mitigating the risks. We can work with you in terms of mitigating the risks of exporting. Which markets are you looking at? Selecting specific overseas markets. Your product in terms of which market is best for. Identifying the best route to market, whether that be a direct route to market in terms of direct selling, or whether it be via an agent, a distributor, a joint venture. Financial advice in relation to payment, pricing. Legal was also mentioned earlier on, and again, legal barriers to exporting. So all those areas really is sitting down with companies and providing the right advice and concerns based on that company. And before coming here this morning, I had a call from a training company who have won a contract in Qatar, and actually that was a specific legal requirement, and said, look, this is the first overseas business we've won. We've never done an overseas contract before. Can someone come and advise us as to what actually clauses we should be putting into that contract going forward? So again, just showing a very topical example that actually came up this morning. Again, depending on which sector your business is in, we will work through one of our business development managers with the sector, or alternatively someone within the trade teams. We'll draw a brief up with yourselves. We'll then go to, we've been through a tender process to select consultants involved in international business. We will take your brief to them. We'll get 3 quotes based on your specific requirements. We'll come back to you, and it's up to you then to select what you consider to be the best consultancy brief that's come back. The good news as part of this is a program offered by ourselves really to get companies looking and out to market. So it is a subsidised program. So although we're giving you specialised help, actually that will cost your company or your clients actually nothing. It's a subsidised service to yourself. Moving forward onto the International Trade Opportunities Programme. Again, this is really working with you to identify specific opportunities for your company, for your product out in market. Again, some of the things it can cover are on the left in terms of local market research, advice on local trading conditions, the culture within those markets. But again, probably most importantly, the biggest part of that service is really based on your needs, is trying to identify various companies that would be interested in your company or your product in that market. We'll contact those companies, see if they are interested, and coming up with a selection of leads for yourself. When we launched this probably about 2 months ago, the new trade program, we had several companies come up and talk about their experiences of exporting, and one of them was biotechnology company down in Bridgend. Then the managing director of the company mentioned in her speech that she'd use this when she goes into new markets, and she's found this to be a great resource, because again it saves her in terms of putting people against it. A lot of the legwork is done by our consultants, actually based in market, and it actually provides warmed up leads for the company to take on then. So she was saying that certainly they found that to be a good service. We have a network of consultants across all markets. A lot of them, or most of them, are actually based in market. So again, it's done with a focus from that specific market, and again, it's a subsidised service to companies. You will actually pay only 25% of the cost of that consultancy of actually finding those opportunities in market for you, and those leads that actually come forward. So in terms of building companies and getting them export ready, identifying opportunities or the opportunities you've identified in market, how do we get you to market to look at those? For 2012-13, the Welsh Government has put in place several multi-sector trade missions to go across the globe, and to take companies with us on those trade missions, just running down them very quickly and to try and get you a feel of what we try to do. So the top one there, the first one that's going out, is going to Washington and possibly onto Boston. And again, we've got an event later on this month at the end of June. There's 4 partners involved in that in terms of trying to make the biggest impact there. We're working with the South Wales Chamber of Commerce. We're working with Andy Williams, who's in the audience there and spoke earlier on doing business in the US. So we're working with the US Embassy in London, and we're also working with Fairfax County, Virginia, who are based adjoining to Washington. And again, the reason why we're looking at it on a partnership basis is really to make sure that we bring a lot of expertise towards that mission. We're talking to the British Embassy in Washington as well, so we'll have business receptions in the embassy. The Deputy Ambassador will be at those, and again, I think it was explained by an earlier speaker, the value of actually bringing business people into the embassy, into the consulate, always goes down well in terms of targeting companies to meet whoever's on the trade mission. I better go a bit quicker because I'm very much aware I'm using time. Qatar and the UAE, again, based on the experience of Milford Haven in Qatar, we're taking some of the experts who are involved in that project and can open doors in terms of the royal family out there. Again, another reception is planned in the British Embassy. Toronto and Montreal, we've based that mission around a couple of trade missions where we hope Welsh companies will be going out. One is an ICT show in Toronto. Another one is a tourism show in Montreal. We've got 2 trade missions going to China, Beijing, Shanghai, and later in the year Hong Kong and Chongqing. On Monday, we're doing again a joint seminar about doing business in China with Hong Kong Investment Agency, and again they will assist us when we come to do the trade mission in terms of opening doors when we go to China. Tokyo, we haven't had a multi-sector trade mission to Japan for probably about 4 to 5 years, and we were again with the Japanese Embassy this week, and considering that we still have 47 Japanese companies in Wales employing nearly 8,000 people, we feel we've been missing a trick there given the links we have with Japan. So again, the Japanese Embassy in London will be supporting Wales on the trade mission there, and again we have very close links with Sir David Warren, who's the ambassador out in Tokyo. And then we've got 2 trade missions then, one to Turkey, one to Germany, and we're just finalising which cities those are actually going to. So again, if any of those trade missions are of interest to your companies or your clients, please come and see me, or my contact details at the end of the show, at the end of the presentation. We've also worked as well, some of you will be based on your business within specific sectors, with our sector teams within Welsh Government, not only the multi-sector trade missions, but there are specific shows being organised throughout the year as well, depending on your sector. So I've just put 4 sectors up there and shown some of the sector-specific exhibitions they're going to. And again, we can provide, and we will provide in a full list of all the trade missions to all companies in the next week with the finalised date. So, for example, again, if you look at ICT there, the Cybos exhibition in Osaka, that's an ICT exhibition. We're hoping to take there probably 5-6 companies, Welsh companies, and we've put the trade mission on at the same time to try and maximise Wales's impact into those specific markets. And finally, the last element of trade support, again, business, I think Rob was saying that in his presentation, business isn't devolved or doesn't centre around when a trade mission's going out. It's when the opportunity arises, it's when a company approaches you. So we've got an overseas business development visit support, which is a grant to help companies get out to market, to get out to do new business. It is focused on new business. It's not designed for you to go and see existing business or agents and distributors. But again, it can cover if you are exhibiting in overseas shows and trade shows. If you are going to trade shows, I was at one about 2 months ago and it was £1,200 just to register. So these can be very expensive shows. Again, we can help in terms of the registration fees, some of the travel fees and accommodation. The grant is up to a maximum of £10,000. Again, actually, I've never seen one go that high, and the average is probably usually around £1,000, £1,500, £2,000 based on the show or what the company is going out there. But again, it's designed to get companies out there trading, going to trade shows. So again, if it's of interest, please let us know. Because of time, I won't run through the top tips, and you as companies probably know that better than I do. Again, really get in touch. If you're working within your sector, with a business development manager, again, they're aware of all these programs. There is an inquiry line, and the number is up there. Alternatively, just give us a ring direct. Got my business cards as my direct email address, and give us a contact for any of those services. But just to conclude, there is a full program of support available to all companies across Wales. It covers anyone from the companies first looking at exporters right through to the experienced exporters, and we are looking forward to getting the trade missions back up and running this year to promote your companies, your products, and also Wales itself. So thank you very much.
In the UK, we operate the National Export System, which is an electronic system that transmits your customs declarations to our customs computer called Chief. Current figures indicate that exports not being presented and arrived at the UK frontier account for around 1% of all the export declarations made, and that's something like about 4,000 declarations a month aren't properly dealt with at the ports. Aha. I was wondering if it had been changed. Right, so why is compliance important? Well, failure to comply can lead to costly delays at the border. It can lead to duty relief being disallowed. It could lead to VAT zero rating also being disallowed. It could lead to the imposition of customs penalties, and it also could impact on authorised economic operator and other authorisations that you may be applying for or already hold. So, who's responsible, or are you responsible? Now this paragraph, this refers to Article 199 of the Customs Code implementing provisions. This is a European legislation. And regardless of the type of representation, you must be able to show that you have all the information to complete your export declaration accurately. You must carry out certain checks on the information provided, such as those listed on this slide, so that it includes the accuracy of the information given in the customs declaration, the authenticity of the documents presented, and compliance with all the obligations relating to the entry of the goods in question under the procedure concerned. The procedure concerned being whichever customs procedure that might be. So in this particular case it would be the export procedure. Now, most businesses will either submit the information themselves or they'll use a customs agent or a freight forwarder to act on their behalf. Most agents that you use will act in a direct representative capacity, so that is acting as a third party who will make a customs declaration in the trader's name and on their behalf. So it's important and good practice to ensure that all instructions given to either to an agent or received from an exporter, if you're an agent, are made in writing. Well, this is just an overview of the export process. So all goods exported from the European Union must be placed under the export procedure and covered by a customs declaration, as I've already alluded to. So a pre-lodged declaration is effectively a notice of intention to export. So the declaration is submitted prior to the goods actually moving to the port. So the declaration is pre-lodged. The goods are then delivered to the frontier, and the presentation of goods is a legal requirement. So that all exports, whether direct, in other words going straight from the UK to another a country outside the European Union, or indirect, being exported via another member state, they must be presented to a loader at the port and arrived at the point that they leave the UK. It's not until an arrival message has been sent to the chief system that the declaration becomes legally accepted. So you've got your initial pre-lodged declaration plus the arrival message, and that gives legal acceptance. At that point, the goods are deemed to be under customs supervision from the time of the acceptance of the customs declaration until such time as they leave the customs territory of the European Union. Now, if no arrival message is received by the chief computer within 22 days of the initial declaration being made, a report, which we call a P9, will be sent to the person who made the customs declaration, stating that they have 38 days to take further action before it's deleted from the system. Now, there may be several reasons for receiving this message. So, for example, it could be a duplicate declaration, the contract for the goods may have been cancelled, or there could be a failure to arrive the goods at the port because it just hasn't happened. Now, if no action is taken within that period of time, the pre-lodged declaration is deleted. Now, although that might be deleted from the system that you're using, or your agent is using, on our system it will flag up that the goods have not been presented to customs and therefore will need investigating. Now, you can prolong the life of the declaration if you can't sort the problems out within 38 days. And you can, by just putting in a nil amendment, and this will cycle for up to 6 months until such time that you've sorted it out. Once the goods have been released, because it goes into the customs control, the system will then go through various profiles, decide whether any examination of documents or examination of goods is required, and then the goods, or the permission to progress message, a P2P message, is then sent to the loader, who will then will be able to load and ship the goods. So the control of goods then is gained through the arrival and departure messaging. So the arrival message informs the chief system, as our computer system, when goods physically arrive at the port or airport and formally arrives at the pre-lodged declaration. A copy of the permission to progress message is sent electronically to the person who input the declaration. For direct exports, we have the Office of Export, that's where the declaration is made. And the Office of Exit, which is the point of exit from the European Union. They're one and the same in the UK. And as I said, the departure message, after shipment, a departure message must be sent to Chief. For indirect exports, in other words, goods going via another member state, the Office of Export and Office of Exit will, of course, be different. And box 29 on the customs declaration will show the intended Office of Exit in another member state. Now, completion of this box generates an electronic message to the Office of Exit when the permission to progress is granted in the UK. So when the permission to progress is granted in the UK, an electronic message is sent to the other member state where the goods are going to be going from, so they will expect those goods to arrive there first. So a failure to obtain the permission to progress means that the Office of Exit won't be notified to expect the goods. Now, with these indirect exports, there is a requirement that an export accompanying document, or an EAD, is sent with the goods, and this is normally generated once the goods are legally accepted and have been released from customs control. Now, this document, the EAD, must accompany the goods and be presented at the Office of Exit. So, for example, if the goods are going via, say, Italy, then it would need to be presented at the Office of Exit in Italy. And what they'll do is then they'll arrange to release the goods, and they'll send a notification back to the UK to say the goods have actually been exported from the European Union. Now, if this does not happen and the goods arrive at the Office of Exit and they're not expected, then they may be sent back to the UK. In fact, more and more member states are now doing that and returning the goods. So the idea being that the export formalities are then correctly carried out in the UK. Now, this can be a costly mistake, both in commercial and compliance terms. This type of error could attract a customs penalty and may affect the overall risk score of a business. Evidence of export. This can take a number of forms. The exporter will need their evidence of export, which should show that the goods have been arrived on chief, and it can be in the form of a movement departure advice. You can also use as evidence of export a screen print from the chief system, and the agents will tend to have access to this, as well as the export accompanying document for the indirect exports. Now, there are occasions where if the goods haven't been arrived and there's a pre-lodged declaration on there, chief may well assume that the goods have been departed just to clear its memory banks, so to speak. And an assumed departure message is not acceptable as an evidence of export. So it does have to have a proper evidence of export on there. Right, dual use goods. So another important issue to highlight here concerns the dual use goods. Now, these can be defined as it says there, items including software and technology which can be used for both civil and military purposes, and shall include all goods which can be used for both non-explosive uses and assisting in any way in the manufacture of nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices. Now, certain commodity codes have associated measures that only apply depending on the end use of the goods, so that's the dual use, or depending on the materials that the goods are made from. Now, the accurate declaration of dual-use goods is essential so as not to compromise UK or EU security, and you can see by just some of these particular items that they could actually have a potentially harmful effect. Now, the Business Innovation and Skills website, that has a goods checker on it, which will help determine whether certain goods require an export license. So it's important that if you are exporting these type of goods, that you do have the appropriate license in place. If these particular goods dual-use goods don't require a license, it's important that you make your agent aware of this in writing, and if you're an agent, you should get it in writing from the exporter. Because failure to comply with this could lead to the issue of civil penalties and potentially to a prosecution. In fact, there was a recent case last year where a license wasn't in place and a custodial sentence was handed down for the export of those particular goods, or the attempted export of those particular goods. Right, the statistical value. This is an item on the customs declaration. The customs declaration has about 36 boxes on it for completing information. This is just one of them. The reason we put this up here is because Chief, our customs computer, does not convert currency to GBP. So it's vital that the value of the export goods is declared in GBP, because this can affect the trade stats collected by the UK and the EU, distorting the balance of payment figures. And just as an example, again, fairly recently, a business submitted 100 declarations, each incorrectly given the invoice stat value of 5 million yen. So this value entered should have been in GBP, which would have been £245,000. But because Chief was not able to convert it, it showed up that the export stats appear to have had an export value of £500 million, so half a billion pounds instead of 24.5 million. So it's important that the information is input in UK sterling, and the value to be to calculate on there, it should be the FOB, or the free on board value. Now, ex works. This depends on, well, who's the exporter. This depends on whether the purchaser is established in the EU or not. From a customs and international trade perspective, exports are deemed to be exports that are going outside of the European Union. So many businesses operate on an ex-works basis. So they sell goods but don't arrange the exportation. The buyer does that. Some businesses are of the opinion that the minute the goods pass the factory gates, they're not responsible for the export declaration. This is not necessarily so, because the responsibility for lodging an export declaration lies with the contracting party established in the EU. This looks a little bit confusing with acronyms and things. Why link duckers and muckers, or duckers to a mucker? That's a declaration unique consignment reference number, which will be on your customs declaration, and a master unique consignment reference. Basically what happens is that the goods are consolidated, so you take all the declaration unique consignment reference numbers for each of your individual consignments, and you put them into a master list, if you like. This is generally done by the consolidator, who may be the freight forwarder. It means that when the consolidated consignments arrive at the port or the airport, the port operator only has to arrive the master unique consignment reference number, because you could have 100 individual consignments with it. And then Chief will automatically arrive the associated consignment references, assuming that they've all been accurately input. So what can go wrong with this? Well, errors arising as a result of the declaration unique consignment reference numbers are not associated to the master numbers properly or correctly, or they might be mistyped or misquoted, and they're likely to lead to consignments being exported without clearance from HMRC. And unauthorised removal or smuggling of the goods is an absolute offence and may be subject to a penalty. And in some cases, certainly in the terms of strategic goods, it could be a criminal offence. So, good housekeeping then. I think this is one of the key messages really, is regularly monitor the customs declarations you've made or your agent has made on your behalf. Any unwanted declarations, you should cancel them. If you receive the P9 message or report that I mentioned earlier, you need to perhaps extend the time for arrival, cancel the declaration, or speak to your agent or contact customs. But taking no action is not an option in that case. It should also be noted that the failure to be compliant with the export procedure may affect, as I said earlier, some of the approvals or authorisations that you may hold or may be applying for, such as authorised economic operator status. And finally, just some further information, because that's very much a cut down presentation. You can look at our website. We have a best practice exports guide, which is extremely good, and there's a number of customs information papers that's available as well. So that's our website, so thank you very much.